Hi guys, Heather here with Reading with a Vengeance. So this is not one of my regular videos, but I just wanted to put a little intro into my vlog that I made for my trip to London for the Women's Prize for Fiction. I just wanted to let you know what an amazing trip it was and just kind of point out a couple of the highlights. I'm just throwing this together. I just got home from work not too long ago. I'm having my post-work beer with my husband, and before we have dinner, I just wanted to get in here and get this recorded. Just let you know that I had the most amazing trip to London. I know I talked a lot about it in a couple of other videos, but I did go to the festival that was in London for the Women's Prize for Fiction. It was an all-day event. The 6 authors from the shortlist were there. I met every one of them except for Barbara Kingsolver because she wasn't doing any signing because I think she has an issue with her hands. But I met the other 5 and got a journal signed. It's really cool. I wasn't planning on buying any merchandise, but I ended up getting the journal that they had there. And I don't typically journal, but I thought it was really cool because this journal has every book that has won the prize in the past 28 years, something like that. And so I got them all to sign this, as well as I met Elif Shafak, which was a huge thrill for me. She was super gracious. She was wonderful. She signed this book as well. So really, yeah, the only author that I didn't get a signature from or get to speak to was Barbara Kingsolver, but they all did a talk that I have here on this video. I have some footage. They each stood up at the podium and kind of talked about the genesis of their book, and then they read a passage of their book, and then they did kind of a Q&A with Louise Minchin, who is the chair of the prize. And it was just an amazing day. I got to spend time with Jem from Jem of Books, and I got to spend time with Alice of Alice and the Giant Bookshelf. It was so much fun. They're so great. They were everything and more that I expected. We just had a really great time hanging out together. And then unexpectedly, I got to meet Lena Norms, and that was a thrill. I'm going to be doing a separate video of her and about her book of poetry that she has. So keep a lookout for that. You'll see in this video that I went straight out and bought her poetry collection, and I bought a couple of extra copies that I might be having another giveaway. Speaking of giveaways, I will be announcing the winner of my last giveaway in my June wrap-up, which will be out the first week of July, the second week of July at the latest. So anyways, I'll be having another giveaway with her poetry collection. So I got to meet Lena Norms, and she is the exact same as she is in her videos. She's bubbly, she's witty, she's just sharp as a tack and funny. And I was completely thrilled to meet her. I also got to meet Simon Savage and his mom, Louise Savage, and they were a delight. And I got photos with them, and it was just so much fun. So the prize was great. Then the very next night, I went to see Harry Styles, and that was amazing. And so I have some footage of his concert. I have some footage of the bands that opened up for him. I have some photographs of some of Harry Styles fans and the craziness that makes up a Harry Styles fan, the things that they wear. It was just so much fun, and I had a great time. So mostly this video, all the footage that I kind of took, it's mostly for me, kind of a keepsake, something to look back, memories, kind of a video memory album. But I did want to share with you my trip over there. So I hope you enjoy that. I went to a couple of, probably 4 or 5 bookstores. 2 of them were mainstream. I went to Waterstones and Foyles, but I did go to 3 or 4 independent bookstores. So you'll see some footage of that. And I went up in the London Eye and did some touristy stuff, went to Trafalgar Square, you know, all that good stuff. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Had a great time, and this might be something that I do every year because it far exceeded my expectations. I had such an amazing time. So I hope you enjoy this footage, and I will see you soon. got the women's prize, Jim and Alice. So exciting. All right, who's your vote to win?
Demon.
Demon. Yeah, Team Demon.
Let's get our Demon Fangirl t-shirts made.
We should have got Demon for the win.
Babs.
We love Babs.
Yeah.
That would have been a good one.
In 2022, Alex published her Sunday best-selling memoir, How Not to Be Strong, a memoir in which she candidly shares the lessons and challenges that have shaped her. Please welcome to the podcast, Alex Scott. And how would you like to be remembered?
Oh, that's a tough one, Vic. I think everyone that knows me in my life would know that I am the kindest human being and shows them nothing but unconditional love, but not in a conventional way. I'm that way. They know that I love them immensely. So yeah, I think just my characteristics as a person.
And you will understand this is not the event that anybody was expecting. However, it does mean that I get the chance to talk to the amazing Annie Mac.
The spiritual and experiential force of dub reggae music is the energy of Fire Rush. Specifically, the black sound revolution of 1970s, 1980s England, when the pioneering Caribbean community fired their revolution against injustice with reverberating dub. Privileging a woman's voice in the subterranean, male-dominated world of that time, Yemay launches her own revolution of sound to find a safe space for her mind and her body, connecting to her ancestors and the truth about her family's past. I wanted to draw on my experiences in that world and my fight for agency. I also wanted the style of the novel to reflect the super-watt sound effects of dub and also the artistry and radical potential of the Caribbean language.
Trespasses is a work of fiction, but it draws very heavily on my own upbringing, I suppose, as a child in the north of Ireland in the 70s. And Kushla, the main character, is a primary school teacher, and the school day that she has with her pupils is very much like the school day that I had. And I turned 8 in 1975, so I guess I could have been one of her pupils. I didn't set out to write a Troubles novel, which is probably very naive of me, because I thought I was writing a love story, and I think, or somebody said, it is also a love story. And somebody said that it's maybe a story of love, because there isn't just a relationship with Kushla and Michael, the man who she has an affair with, but there's also a very complex relationship that she has with her gin-sodden mother, and also, I suppose, a relationship that's complicated in a different way with Davy, the little boy in her class, and I suppose in her attempts to help him. So I think once I set it in 1975 and tried to, in that place, and then tried to remember what it was like to live there, I found that the Troubles seemed to just impinge on every single thing that everybody did all the time. It was really pretty unrelenting, and I think it probably brought back a lot of memories of things that I'd forgotten.
This book is about a people and a place that I love, my home in the southern Appalachian Mountains of North America. It's really the poorest section, a large geographical piece of the United States, and it is considered backward. It's considered sort of stupid. We're a joke in the United States. Maybe in the world, I don't know. Maybe you've heard of us. We're hillbillies. We know, we know what the world thinks of us, and there's a lot of shame and blaming, self-blame that goes with poverty that gets internalized. And I wanted for a long time to write about the fact that poverty is something that gets done to people in a very sort of deliberate way, and it gets passed down through generations, and it creates despair, and it creates orphans. And I spent a long time thinking, I want to write this story, I can't write this story, nobody wants to hear this story. Maybe undoubtedly I had internalized some of that shame. And then, in a kind of miraculous way, while I was visiting your country, I had this light bulb moment. I thought, Charles Dickens did it. And I had the idea of writing my own modern day Appalachian version of David Copperfield. And so I did. Once I understood, I sort of received permission from Charles Dickens to do this, I pictured my demon Copperhead, as this red-headed kid, just from my neighborhood, the kind of boy I've known all my life. I've been sort of in parts of my life. I started hearing him tell me the story, and that voice was just, it was always clear in my head.
Flies is set in the 1990s during the siege of Sarajevo in Bosnia, in the wars in the breakup of the former Yugoslavia. It's fiction, but it's inspired by family history, and it follows Zora, who's an artist and a teacher, through the first few months of the siege. So briefly, my father's English, but my mother's from Sarajevo. She left long before the war, but my grandparents were stuck there, and most of my mother's relatives, when war broke up in 1992. I was 19 at the time, and we slowly started to have a trickle of Bosnian and Serbian refugees pass through our South London home as they escaped the war and the draft. So it's inspired by that, and also by my great-uncle's story. He was a landscape painter who lost his studio and most of his art, his life's work, in the same fire that I've just described there.
It's such a pleasure to be here. I don't know if anybody else feels the same, but I'm still excited by lots of people getting together and live literary events. The Marriage Portrait is a novel that was inspired by a poem and also a painting. So I was reading Robert Browning's poem, My Last Duchess, one day, and I was suddenly wondering to myself, who is that woman behind the curtain that the Duke very casually mentions that he murdered? Who is that wife? And so I looked her up, and it turned out she was 16 and she was called Lucrezia de Medici. And then I saw this portrait of her by Bronzino. And most novels, I find anyway, have quite a long gestational period. Many can be years before you actually put pen to paper or the idea crystallizes. But this one was the exception to the rule, and I knew as soon as I looked at her face in this painting that I was going to write a novel about her, that I was looking into the eyes of my next novel subject. I find beginnings really hard, and so actually when I began writing the book, the first scene I ever wrote was a scene where Lucrezia is about 7 years old, and she's taken down into the basement of her father's palazzo and she meets a tiger for the very first time. And that was that was me kind of getting to know Lucrezia, or my Lucrezia I should say, because she is based on a real person, but she's also fictional. So I didn't know, and actually when I wrote the first draft of the book, when I got to the end, I realised that I'd started it all in the wrong place. It just felt wrong. It was like kind of walking around in really too tight shoes. I just knew that the book hadn't found the form it needed. So I basically just pulled it all apart physically with all the papers, and I thought
Physically?
yeah, the manuscript.
Yeah.
And I thought, no, that's where it needs to start. It needs to start with her looking at him and thinking, he's going to kill me.
It's fantastic to be here. Thank you to the Women's Prize for bringing this strange novel to so many readers. So the genesis of this book was an ill-advised tourist swim with the dolphins in the Indian Ocean. Swimming with bottlenose dolphins and realizing, oh God, I shouldn't be doing this. Then finding out that the bottlenose dolphins had arrived and driven out the resident pod of spinner dolphins, who are much smaller and have a very different culture. And there'd been an oil spill up the coast that was unreported, and to me that was like, oh, so there's been a natural disaster and there's a forced migration and one tribe has driven out another tribe. So I started pulling on that thread, and I describe it at the beginning as this is the story of two estranged cetacean tribes, cousins with a painful past. The first are the Longi people, tiny pod of Stenella longirostris or spinner dolphins, and the second is the megapod of common bottlenose dolphins or Tersiops truncatus, who drove the Longi from their home and took it for themselves. Each pod has pride and virtue, each feels above the other. They do not know they share one fatal flaw, they think they know this ocean. So that's the context, and it is set in the world of cetaceans, mainly following the fortune of Ea, who is a young spinner dolphin abducted by a gang of juvenile bottlenose males. And in this book, as with my others, I follow true science and consult a lot of pester a lot of scientists for research. And only after writing it did I realize, actually, I've written a war story from nature's point of view. And this realization has come to me very recently. And so I thought I would read you something which really shocked me when I found out about it, which is the use of cetaceans, bottlenose dolphins in warfare. And right now, various militaries, definitely the US, are using them, and they call them marine mammal assets. And I was advised by an ex-Navy SEAL who wanted me to know the truth. On this ill-fated swim, or well-fated, in the water with all these incredible animals, because bottlenose dolphins are huge and powerful and could easily kill a human being. They went past all these stupid tourists in the water, and one of them looked me in the eye, buzzing and chirping, and she had a calf with her, and I realized that's a mother, and she's telling me I shouldn't be doing this. And she was a person, and to me it was no stretch at all to think of them as beings, sentient beings, people in another form.
things haven't been quite the same. Haze on the horizon, babe. It's only been a couple of days and I'm through. Yeah. Hey, Wembley! Do you prefer Wembley or London? Wembley! Now, there is the portion of the show where if you brought a sign with you, it's a good time to stick it up in the air. Voice left for this one. Just stop your crying, it's a sign of the times. Welcome to the final show. I hope you're wearing your best clothes. Can't find the door, you wait in the sky. You look pretty good down here. You look really good. We never learned we've been here before. Why are we always stuck and running from the bullets? The bullets. We never learned we've been here before. Why are we always stuck and running from the bullets? The bullets. Just stop your crying, it's a sign of the times. We gotta get away from here. We gotta get away from here. Just stop your crying, it'll be alright. It's only till the end is near. We gotta get away from here. The last 2 years of my life have been absolutely incredible getting to play these shows. This is my favourite tour I've ever been a part of. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for allowing us to do 4 nights here at Wembley Stadium. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Being here, it's always so special to me doing these shows at home. My family is here, my friends are here. There are a lot of people who have supported me over the years that I could not have done it without. People who I've made music with, my best friends, they are here tonight. Thank you. Please get home safely, look after each other. I hope you had a really good time with us tonight. I had a fantastic time. I'll remember this night for the rest of my life. Thank you so, so much, Wembley. 2 down, 2 to go, let's go!
Come on, Harry, we want to say goodnight to you.
Nothing to say. when everything gets in the way. Seems you cannot be replaced. And I'm the one who